that public-facing map. It is in the works still. We were going to launch this week, but it might be too early to say. We have some testing to do. But if you want to stay up to date on that information, we are launching our first e-newsletter this Thursday, which is going to be a recurring newsletter to keep our stakeholders, you, anyone who signs up to a newsletter, up to date on that tool. In addition to that newsletter, we're also going to have a blog. So any updates on those tools, we'll get it up on a live real-time feed.
Commissioner, you're muted.
Oh, sorry about that. All of this sounds good. I just wanted to make one request. When the interactive website is live, could you make sure that information is shared with our county PIO, Casey Miller? Because I think this is something we would definitely want to have linked from our own Echo Mountain page.
Absolutely. Casey's on our Wednesday weekly call. So we will provide those updates every during this Wednesday too.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank
Commissioner
you.
Commissioner
Yeah, I
Jacobson.
do have hi, thank you. I do have several questions here, so I'll just take them one at a time. So when you say you're getting started on the 18th or rather the 19th, what exactly does getting started mean? Does it mean that all properties are kind of swept up for certain debris at one time? Is it one property at a time? What does that mean? Like, what's the process?
Sure. So right now, and again, we've never done this before. Lincoln County is going to be kind of the guinea pig. You're going to be the first one where we start ash and debris cleanup on for the structural debris work. I think the idea is that we would be issuing work orders to the contractor, and within that work order, it would have maybe like a series of 10 addresses that the county has helped identify as priorities, 10 addresses at a time, and that work order would be released to Caney Excavating in this case, and then they would start, you would see them out there like working to separate metal and concrete because all that material is recyclable, and then they would start loading up the debris and trucking it out to, I think for this area, we're going to the Coffin Butte landfill. Don't hold me to that. It might be we're going to Hillsboro, but we've got contracts with the landfills for that work. So I hope that clarifies it a little bit. But when I say work, I mean loading material up into dump trucks and starting the cleanup work. There's a lot of prep that that is happening to get that to get us to the point where we can initiate it. That helps.
Yeah, that helps. So kind of a follow-up to that is, so that the 19th is a little more than a week away. So have those first property owners been notified yet?
That's a good question. I don't know. That's something I can check on. It's kind of a discussion. We're still kind of juggling about whether that's AC disaster managing that outreach or if it's ODOT's group managing that outreach. So very good question.
Okay. And then kind of going down again my list of questions. One of the concerns I have is I know we do have several property owners that have not completed ROEs, and certainly as a property owner, you have a choice on who you want to clean up your property. It's not forced on you to have the state and their contractors do it. You have a choice. But what I am kind of concerned about is if you do not have an ROE, the state comes in and does the cleanup and then is done cleaning all the properties that had ROEs, and I'm assuming moves on to some of the other communities in the state. What happens to that property owner that doesn't have an ROE and does not take advantage of the state's cleanup and then later on changes their mind.
Okay, so I kind of, misheard your question initially, but what you're saying is if a property owner has chosen not to sign a right of entry, we will not be doing any work on their property, right? But let's say we're 5 houses down from them, and they've all of a sudden decided, oh, you know what, we want to do this. We want to sign a right of entry. We are willing to take that on.
And Commissioner, just so you know, I've just today received 3 new right of entries in the mail today. So we've been pushing out there in the community as much as we can push to try and get people to do so.
Yeah, I know you guys have, and I know Paul has as well. And again, people have choices, but I also know that sometimes you might change your mind on how you want that to happen. And so just want to kind of understand the process. If you do change your mind, how that would work. I guess the last thing I have, which is not so much for ODOT, but more just is a point of order for the board. So it sounds like with commercial properties, including the RV park, but I'm assuming that also means rentals. We had a large majority of our properties that were burned were rentals. There was a lot of workforce housing there. I would just say that as soon as we get, or the state gets official word, back, presumably saying that they're not going to get reimbursement through FEMA for cleaning up commercial properties, including rentals in the RV park. I would just really want to make sure that we get that notice as soon as possible so that we can take appropriate action in learning about possible appeals or other situations, because I'm sorry, I just have a really hard time swallowing a decision like that. And I would just really hope that the whole board would advocate for reversal on that decision, so that it does go that way, because we need our commercial properties cleaned up. That's a lot of workforce housing out there. I think it's wonderful that the state's going to clean it up regardless. Really feel good about that, but what we can do to help make sure that FEMA, gives us those resources, gives you guys those resources to do that. I'm happy to help that. So just let us know as soon as we get that official word. And that's
Maybe a point of clarification. Maybe I
Go
can add a point of clarification really quick on the rental homes. FEMA has told us that they will cover second homes. So it's interesting to me, actually, when you ask your question, because I would think that's commercial property as well, but they've told us, like for the Detroit area and the McKenzie River area, that second homes are included. So I'm probably going to do a follow-up on that with AP Disaster, just to touch bases.
So if you, oh boy, that's complicated. So if you have a second home, it would get cleaned up. If you have a second home that's a rental, you would not have it cleaned up. I mean, the FEMA would not reimburse for that. Okay. All right.
I think I know it is complicated. Yeah, you asking that, it's a good question though, and I think we need to get clarification on it. And unless Paul has any input on that, if he's heard anything on his end. Okay, he's saying no, so I want to follow up. And then I'll respond to Paul, I guess, with answer on that.
Yeah, thank you. I think that would be helpful. I know FEMA is very complicated. But again, I just want to reiterate to people watching that it sounds like from a state perspective, the property is going to be cleaned up regardless. So that's not the question. That's really just the state getting reimbursed for that through FEMA. So thank you.
That's correct. Yeah.
Anything else, Commissioner Jacobson? Good questions.
That's it from me. Thank you.
All right, I guess I'd like to pursue that exact line of thought, just so I understand. So the state is willing to clean up the commercial properties, but the state is working with FEMA to try to gain reimbursement for cleaning up those properties, which is slowing down the process. And I guess my concern is, how do we speed things up?
So I think I'll try to tease out what I think your question is. You're asking me if not getting commercial approval from FEMA is slowing down the cleanup process. And the answer is no. We're moving away from the mobile home park as our priority site and moving on to the other priority sites that have been identified by Lincoln County. So it's not slowing things up. And so, does that make sense? And did I answer your question?
Well, I think you did. So what you're saying is you expect you'll get approval to clean up those commercial properties prior to the other work that needs to be done, prior to concluding the other work that needs to be done.
Yeah,
Okay.
and likely, I mean, we may get a denial, just so it's clear. It's likely that we will get a denial from FEMA that they'll cover commercial property. And then it'll have to be the county's decision on whether or not they want to appeal that, because they're the ones that submitted the letter requesting commercial property be covered in Lincoln County. And so we will help with that. AC Disaster is willing to help with that appeal if the county wants to go that route. But regardless, the state's paying for the cleanup.
Okay. All right. Any
So
idea when you might receive notification of a decision by FEMA?
we are pushing. So anytime, we thought we'd hear late last week and we haven't. So I would guess early this week, maybe hopefully by midweek.
All right. Then you mentioned that the state had a contract with K&E Excavating, and I'd just be interested in your, I guess, discussion of that process. I know we've had some contractors locally that wanted to be involved, and I'm not saying I disagree with the decision. I'm just saying I think it would be helpful if people understood why the decision was made the way it was.
K&E is an Oregon-based firm. They do a lot of work with ODOT. They're a very good contractor. They have a lot of work to do throughout the state, and so they'll be hiring subcontractors. And if there are local people that are wanting to subcontract with K&E, they need to reach out and get on the subcontractor list, which is with a gal in our office, Katie Hubler. And what I could do is send that information. I can email it to whoever I need to email it to at the county, if it's Paul or whomever, so that you know who's Katie's email.
Paul or Katie would be fine with me.
Okay, I can do that.
I think we actually do already have that up on our website. I think Casey
Okay.
actually had put that up previously last week, yeah.
And just so that you know, they did do a state bid for this process. Anna, you might want to just mention that for the record also.
Yeah. Let's see, I had one more question. Where are my notes? Oh, and again, I guess I'll go back to Commissioner Jacobson's question about people that may initially decide they don't want the state to clean up their property and then subsequently decide to do so. There will come a point in time when the state's efforts are concluded, and I assume that after that point in time, the option for a property owner to ask the state to clean up would no longer be viable.
Yeah, I don't know what that date is. I think it's something that ODOT has to figure out. It's a really good question. We haven't talked about it at all. And so we need to get that figured out, because remobilizing a contractor back in is expensive. So I need to probably ask that question to the powers to be. You know, we've got to have some sort of cutoff date. So maybe they're going to say no. You know, I don't know, but I can follow up on that.
Thank you. That's exactly what I'm looking for. I think it's important that the property owners realize that there's a window, and after a certain point in time, the option to go with the state may not exist. Then a final question, and I think I know the answer, is the cleanup efforts by the state is being done at no cost to the property owners, no direct cost. Correct?
Is that a question?
That is, yes, the state is, so the federal government's picking up 75%, the state's picking up the 25%, and they are not sending a bill to the property owner. They may, after everything's done, and this is sort of Anna's, what she can answer, may go back to the insurance companies and put their hand out for the cleanup money only, but nothing to do with the person's property damage.
Okay. All right.
That's accurate.
That's all the questions I had. Anything else from either commissioner? All right. I thank you all. A special thank you to Anna and Joseph from ODOT. Appreciate you taking time to join us today. And
Thank you for having us.
Thank
all
you.
right. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye now. We'll move on to our next item on the agenda, which is our public health COVID report. And Florence, update us.
All right, good afternoon, Florence Porta, Deputy Director of Public Health. I just wanted to let you know that I will be on for 10 minutes and then I will pass the baton to Rebecca Austin because I have to attend a vaccine planning meeting at 4 o'clock. And
Okay.
this is actually a standing meeting every day. Yeah. So we'll start with number of cases reported. And as you can see on the first graph, we are kind of like coming down, even though we have a trend since October that is in upward trend. Our numbers after the Christmas holiday and the break are not as high as we expected, which is good. Also, very good news is that I just got the metrics from the state, and we are remaining in high risk. We were very, very close. We were 4 cases away from moving back up, but we are remaining in high risk. So I think that's going to be a good news for everybody. Scroll down, please. So Commissioner Hunt, as requested, here is the test positivity rate chart that Susan put together for you. So the green line is the test positivity rate, and the various color lines, the dotted ones, are demonstrating the moderate risk category, high risk category, and extreme risk category. As you can see right now, our test positivity rate puts us in the moderate risk category, but because our case count per 100,000 is higher, we will remain in the higher risk category. Next slide, please.
Excellent chart. Thank you, Florence, and special thank you to Susan. I appreciate it.
Of course. So here is kind of an overview of our monthly cases since August. So as you can see, we went up towards the end of 2020, and we are at 70 cases as of a few hours ago. Next slide, please. All right, so this is also your slide, Commissioner Hunt. So this is showing the 2 weeks, 2-week period, actual cases and what it means in terms of cases per 100,000, and then where do we fall within the risk category. So as you can see, right now we are just below the extreme risk limit of 200. And so hopefully we remain this way as we move along. Next slide, please. So before I move on to vaccines, is there any questions on this reporting, investigations?
Any questions? Looks like you're okay to go ahead.
All
Thank
right,
you.
so, yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so vaccines. So, as you can see, so as of Saturday, those are numbers as of Saturday. We had received, and when I see we is Lincoln County as a whole. So those includes the doses received by the Samaritan Health System, by local public health, and by our first responders. And so we had received a total of 1,700 doses, and we have been able to administer 496, which, let me tell you, is a pretty great achievement based on the very detailed kind of notice that we all received. So we are expecting 770 doses this week, and we have many clinics that are going on this week, and those are clinics that are led by Pacific West Ambulance, by Samaritan Hospital, by North Lincoln Fire District, who am I forgetting? By Newport Fire. So, and of course, these are also, I know like last week, some students from the Oregon Coast Community College School of Nursing joining to volunteer and help administer vaccines. I just wanted to really give a really big shout out to our community partners. And I also wanted to say that the medical staff at the Sheriff's Office has been a major partner in this effort. So I just wanted to reiterate the fact that we have great partners in the community, and that we're all working towards very similar and joint goal, which is really amazing. Next slide, please, or scroll down a little bit so I can see this next. Thank you. So we just wanted also to give you a sense of an estimation of the number of people in phase 1A, and so who are needing the first round of vaccination. So out of the people who are eligible to receive this vaccine, which is 2,749 people, and this data is coming from organizations that we have outreach to, and that are in phase 1A, and we send them a survey, and this is based on their responses, right? We ask them, how many staff do you have who are eligible to this, to receive this vaccine, and how many staff do you have who is willing to receive it? And as you can see, our numbers are even getting better than they were last week, with a possible uptake of 85.5%, which is absolutely amazing. So this is very, very encouraging that the community is really taking this vaccine and willing to achieve herd immunity in the county, which is great. So we're really hoping that the next phases are gonna, mirror that initial uptake. And then the other pieces are, as mentioned earlier, the partners that have been helping us with vaccine distribution are listed below, and they've been absolutely tremendous. I believe we should be at the end of the presentation, but I just want to make sure. Can you scroll down, please? Yes, there we go. That is all.
Mr.
Questions
Chair.
of, go ahead, Commissioner Hall.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just wanted to jump back to the numbers for a moment. I mean, I'm surprised, but I'm surprised in a good way. It sure seemed like, looking at the numbers just a few days ago, it looked like we were about to tip over. So I guess it's just exceptionally good timing, and I know people are going to see the daily snapshot we put on the Facebook page that shows Saturday, Sunday, and today a count of 25 new cases. And I imagine people will be surprised we haven't tipped over, but just any reflections or thoughts on how we came that close but didn't?
Well, I would say that folks might have been safe over the holiday break and limit their gatherings.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Jacobson, questions or comments?
Yeah, thank you, Florence. I know you have to go, so if you need Rebecca to answer my questions, I understand that. And it looks like she's queuing up her microphone, so.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
if I may jump in, Commissioner Jacobson, before Florence leaves, I just want to say, and I know I speak for my fellow commissioners, and I do that carefully, but I think the efforts of the Public Health Department and certainly the ability to actively engage so many partners within the county is outstanding. And you know, it's difficult to prove a negative, so we really don't know how many people haven't gotten sick because of the great efforts of public health and our partners. But I think the fact that we've been able to get out of the extreme level and stay in the high level, at least for 2 periods of time so far, speaks well of the efforts of, again, our public health department and our partners. So my sincere thanks, and I didn't mean to jump in, but I wanted to say that before Florence left.
You're
I
here.
appreciate that. I'll make sure to pass it along. Thank you.
Well said. All right, so a few of the questions I have, if we can scroll back to the vaccine slide. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so it says 1,700 doses received, and then this week we're receiving 770. Is that 770 included in the 1,700? Or is that 770 additional ones? I'm a little confused about that.
It's additional.
Yeah, it's additional, right?
Okay, additional, great. And I guess as I look through the categories the state has put out, I feel like those first couple of categories, 1A and even 1B, those are groups that are a lot easier to identify, and we know who our first responders are, we know who our medical workers are, we know who nursing home patients are. What I'm getting increasingly worried about, not just in our county, but kind of on the state as a whole, is when we get to that really mass vaccine, like sort of the general public or even people over a certain age group, where that becomes more difficult to identify and less discreet. And you know, I think perhaps maybe next week or ongoing, I think I'd like to maybe have a chat, because we're getting a lot of questions that are coming about what the plan is for that as we move forward. You know, people have said that maybe the National Guard is going to help with that, though I haven't heard anything official from the state on that. So I guess maybe if we can get into kind of the, not just the categories we're in now, but what the plan is, or at least the thinking is with partners on that, the much bigger category. Hopefully, I think that would be helpful. And then just another comment is I've heard that we are thinking about getting our call center kind of back up and going to be able to take more questions about vaccines. And I think that would be really helpful. I know that we're starting to get hit hard with, you know, what category do I fit in and that kind of stuff. I think that would be helpful for people. But then in addition, we're also getting calls from retired, you know, medical people that are willing to help give shots in the arm and do that kind of stuff. And at this point, it's difficult to know where exactly to send them. So I think the call center approach will be good.
Yes, Commissioner Jacobson. So as to the plan, absolutely, I will make sure that we have a clear presentation next week. But I don't think there is a meeting next week, is there?
We'll be meeting on Tuesday, the 19th at 3 o'clock.
Okay, Perfect. So that will be ready for Tuesday. And then call center, yes, we're gonna try to have it ready to go by Wednesday of this week. And then we're working on a survey so that we can collect names and license number of all those people who are retired and who wants to be part of the effort, so that we, if and when needed, we can have that database available to us. We'll communicate
Great.
that to
Can we
you
just-
as soon as we have the link available.
Great. Maybe we could have Samaritan, Dr. Ogden, or whoever is taking the lead on vaccines from their end, I think, join us next week as we talk about that larger plan, because obviously they're a critical partner. In some of that,
Yeah,
so
I
it may be
mean,
helpful.
we are partnering with multiple agencies on putting this together, but yeah, we can invite Dr. Ogden.
Great,
And
thank you.
just- If I could just jump in there too, Katie,
Sure.
that we are meeting with these partners on a regular basis. I think they have like 3 meetings set up a week just to do this coordination. So, and it's kind of nice that we've been able to, even though things have been coming at us pretty rapidly, I would say that, you know, having a very discrete group that we can focus on and kind of get our act together has been really beneficial, because we're just growing on this. And Florence has that totally under control. She recognizes that we're just going to be growing. Every group is going to have more and more and more people in it. So we get to the point where we will just be asking people to make an appointment and show up. You know, it won't be like, oh, you can't come because you're not in a certain group. So that is definitely where the planning is heading. So rest assured that Florence and all of our partners have definitely got this.
Great, and I also recognize, as far as timelines go and when all this gets executed, we are of course reliant on the actual vaccine being available, like the rest of the world. So, you know, I get that we have limited control in terms of when we get our hands on that and how we can distribute it. Just want to make sure that we're, you know, ready to go when we are able to do that.
Well, and I think that's going to get just better as we go along as well. Everybody is, the infrastructure is being built pretty much as we're running with it. And so I think that's going to get better as well.
Great, thank you.
All right, Rebecca, now that Florence is gone, thank you for joining us in her absence. So I'll ask this question, and I think it just goes to the complexity of what we're trying to do. It's certainly not a criticism, but if you look at the chart, somebody might ask, gosh, you've gotten 1,700 doses. How come you haven't given out 1,700?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, that's a fair question. I
Again,
think
it's not
we're-
meant critically, it's meant
No.
recognizing the complexities. Go ahead.
Right. Well, yeah, there is a lot of complexity with the rollout for sure. And we do have several clinics, like Florence said, already in play. People are all over the county today are getting notified that it's their turn and they need to make an appointment. So like I said, you know, the first week, which gosh, I'm thinking was that just last week? No, probably 2 weeks ago. We had 100 doses in the county. And then the next week we had, between PAC West and Public Health, we had 400 doses or 500 doses. So every week we get a little bit more, and so we stand up a little bit more. And I think that's what you're gonna see. There's not, like, we're not wasting those doses. They're sitting in the proper cold chain, waiting to be put in arms, but you know, it's not that many, really. What, 300, 400 doses? 400 doses are sitting there waiting to get in arms. They're probably going to go in arms in the next 2 days. So it's not like we can just run out to nothing. And then we have all these clinics scheduled. The 770 haven't arrived yet, you know, so we need this little buffer to keep the momentum going.
No, I understand totally, but I thought it would be helpful for others, particularly in the audience, to understand. And you answered the next question that, again, somebody may say, well, what's happening to those vaccines? Are we throwing them out? And you and I talked about this earlier, and again, the county has not thrown out any vaccines. None have spoiled. We're just, we've got some in the queue, and we're working to get those administered as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. Yes. Very
All
strict,
right.
very strict to that too, because we know how many shots in each vial. And when we plan to do a clinic, we make sure that we have that number of people, you know, in tens pretty much for the Moderna, ready to go. Yep.
Pretty much multiples of 10, is that not correct? 10 per
Yes.
vial?
That's correct, because once we puncture the vial, it's only good for 6 hours. So we need to use it immediately.
Yeah, so
Okay.
just to clarify, if you have 6 people lined up, you have to wait till you get 3 more, right?
Or more.
4 more, sorry, bad math.
Yeah.
4 more.
It's late on a Monday afternoon.
It is late to do that, man. Yeah, but we usually don't wait. We hustle and find them and get them there.
But again, there's that tight timetable. Once you start, you got to use the whole vial or it spoils. So
Yeah, and all of our partners know that. That's a main goal that we all have. So, yeah, we don't want to waste any. It's too precious.
all right. Any other questions or comments for Rebecca? Again, I would just say, I think when you stop and contemplate the complexities and the fact that we've built such strong partnerships, that speaks well to the work being done.
I definitely agree. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And I'd just like to say here as well.
Thank you, Claire. Katie?
Yes, I heard, thank you, and my comments were not meant to be critical. I just want to make sure that we're involved enough that we can help move barriers out of the way when needed.
No, absolutely. All right, if there's nothing more, we'll move back to the agenda, and the next item would be commissioner reports. Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I led the monthly meeting of the State Housing Stability Council on Friday. And just my biggest takeaway is of a very complex subject in just a minute or two is scarcity produces its challenges, but abundance produces new challenges as well. And thanks to action of the Legislative Emergency Board, at least proposed in the governor's budget, the latest round of federal stimulus money, there is going to be, I hate to use what's becoming a tired cliche, but unprecedented amount of resources for rent assistance, relief to landlords, and really homeless services, trying to get people off the streets as quickly as possible. And I'll just say that I'm helping to shepherd some very complex, intense yet respectful discussions about how that pie should be allocated and who should be at the table to allocate that pie. So as things take shape, I will report in periodically. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Jacobson.
I have nothing further to report, thank you.
And I will follow suit of Commissioner Jacobson. I have nothing at this time. So with that, Wayne, any comments or reports before we adjourn?
Just noting for folks that we were having our first workshop on the STRs on January 20th. There's information on our website that talks about a draft agenda. We're still working on getting the appropriate platform to get public involvement in that. There will be a mechanism for public involvement. Unfortunately, we're not yet sure if we're going to be able to take people's comments live at the workshop, but there will be opportunities for public comment. So stay tuned to that and we'll get information out to you.
And again, our hope is that we will be able to take public comment, but we're having challenges with technology which may not allow us to do that.
Well, just to clarify, there will be a public comment opportunity. The question will be, is it live and or interactive in the workshop? That's going to be the question.
Okay, very good. All right, if there's nothing more to come before the board, our next meeting will be on Tuesday. We will not be meeting on Monday, Martin Luther King's Day. Please take that time to relax and enjoy. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, January 19th at 3 p.m. It will be a virtual meeting, and until then, we are adjourned.
And
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just, sorry, if I could add, relax, enjoy, and reflect on Dr. King's lasting legacy for this nation. Thanks.
Well said. All right, if there's nothing more, we are adjourned until the 19th. Thank you.
This conference is no longer being recorded.